Welcome to BrotoGP. This is episode number 101. I tried this 10 seconds ago, but hit the wrong button.
Title of Ron sex tape.
There we go. We're coming at you after the Brno Czech Republic round. I actually clapped for Jorge Lorenzo this time, which is, unbelievably shocking. Clapping there. Obviously, you know who won the race. You know who got second. You know who got third. But we got plenty to talk about. Yamaha is still failing. Ducati did something amazing. Honda's still there. We probably will even get to Moto 2 this round because the race was freaking amazing. Let's do it.
What's up, guys? Kevin from BrotoGP here. As usual, I got Dennis above me. Say hi, Dennis.
Hello.
I got
Hi,
Rob
Dennis.
even higher because he's the top guy in the totem pole these days at BrotoGP.
Top
Hell
dog.
yeah.
Top dog.
Like
Yes,
a
we may
chihuahua.
have had a great race. Yes, we may have had an epic Moto 2 race. Yes, a bunch of awesome stuff happened. But most importantly, the thing that must be covered the most and analyzed and in depth to an academic level. We will footnote and break down the fact that the announcer clearly said big testicles coming live on the air.
Nards.
If you expect me to talk about anything else, you are going to be disappointed because I will only speak about big testicles coming. That's all I will talk about.
Should I play
You may
the
have
video
think
right
he
now?
said big test, of course, coming up. That's not what he said. That's bullshit. That is fake news. Hashtag big testicles. Hashtag big testicles coming.
Should I play the video now, or do you want to save it for later?
I feel like the analysis that I have regarding this particular news faction will lead into it later. So we're going to leave these guys wanting for more.
Okay. All right. Let's not do that now. Let's talk about Riders Law right now. I'm in a rush recording this episode because I've got to drive to Sonoma tomorrow, and of course, I'll be in the Riders Law Sprinter van. My homeboy Fabian, the Riders Law team manager, will be driving the rig, and we got to go do some racing. So, of course, Riders Law, they're your California motorcycle accident injury lawyers. If you get hit on the street, if you need some legal help, especially if you're in the state of California, please give Riders Law a call. That's Riders Law with a Z. Their amazing poster is behind me, and I am actually accidentally wearing the shirt right now as well. Just because
I almost wore my throwback shirt from Laguna last year for this episode.
you should wait a pit shirt.
The pit shirt, yeah, it was a little scratchy though. It's a little scratch on my nips were a little scratchy. I didn't like that.
Make sure to bring those to Sonoma, guys.
Yes, my nips. I will bring them. They are attached.
No, bring your Riders Law pit shirt. Maybe put some duct tape over the X sponsors on the sleeves that we don't like anymore.
Correct.
Which ones are the ex sponsors?
Do I have to announce it?
Yeah, you're right. Probably not.
No, I'm not going to do that. No, yeah. So
In the
Riders
great
Law.
words of Ron Burgundy, go fuck yourself, mean motorsports.
Oh.
YouTube, man. No, I think that was.
Still waiting for the ad revenue to start coming in. Still waiting.
I think that was fine because you were just quoting someone else, right? That's probably good. No, yes, of course. Riders Law is supporting our amazing sport of motorcycle racing quite heavily this year. We want them to keep doing it, so we need your help. You as I don't know, needers of legal. That's not even a word.
Victims.
Like someone that needs
Just
Huh?
say victims. Victims.
We can just be like our bro in the army, dude. He got caught doing 118 in a 65 mile an hour zone, and he was like, I need legal help. Did you happen to know anyone? And we were like, funny you should ask. If you called Riderslaw with a Z.com, or I should say, type that in your search engine, you would find an excellent set of lawyers, and they would potentially help you out.
Yeah, that's rather interesting. Doing 118.
Right. He didn't even act like he didn't do it. He was just like, I'm trying to get the lowest sentence. The least amount he had to pay. He's like, I'm guilty as fuck. I just don't want to I'm trying to
He just wants to come off as less guilty, but he's
Right.
guilty. Yeah.
Right.
I'm sure Riders Law could help them out a little bit. I'm not sure if they're gonna they're not gonna prove that he's innocent of doing 118. Definitely not. Just more of a, we're going for more of a slap on the wrist as opposed to a non-lubed Yeah, never mind. I shouldn't even
Right.
say that on YouTube. YouTube. That's right. All right.
You know, Rob, before we get started, while I was in Seattle this weekend, I bought a book on the philosophical history of cussing. It's called Fuck, A History of Swearing. And I'm literally studying it so I could school you on why you got to stop giving me crap about swearing.
Can you school YouTube? Can you make a YouTube series about cussing on YouTube for YouTube to watch?
If you guys think me explaining to Rob how swearing and cussing is an integral part of human communication dating back at least 2 million years and connecting it to our anthropological evolution, going from hand gestures to vocal gestures to complicated speech, if you think that's something that's interesting, comment in the comments below. And if we get enough comments, we will do it. Straight up. I'm super interested in it. I will just literally do a topic about it.
Awesome.
Rob's right. Fuck by BrotoGP.
Rob's that'll work perfect. No, let's we're not going to do that
race,
now.
By the way.
Yeah, we're not going to do that now. Dennis complained last time that I think we talked for 10 minutes before talking about racing. Now we've made it to 6. So let's actually get into the motorcycle race.
Making it to 6 is about as far as I can go.
Awesome. I think. No, never mind. Point number 1. And this one is all me here. We had Bizarro Jorge Lorenzo show up for the Brno round in the Czech Republic. If you don't know what I mean by Bizarro Jorge Lorenzo, this race was decidedly anti-Jorge. He did everything that Jorge has never done before, and he managed to pull out an amazing race in hot, tricky conditions at a track that is very difficult on tires. So how should we dive into this? I think I want to start with the shit that he said before the actual round, the quotes that came out,
because I actually haven't heard it. So if you could tell me what was said, I would appreciate that.
And I actually have an interesting take on this, why he was talking and what he was doing. So you explain, Robin. I'll take up the tail, so to speak.
Yeah. So essentially, him and Dovizioso got into kind of an argument in the press once again. Jorge Lorenzo brought up that Dovi has tried to undermine him and downplay him and attack him, and of course he goes on to say that Dovi sees what he's doing and says that his method is not good, right? Jorge defends his method, defends his tactics of the way that he does races in the press to Dovizioso. And Dovi, of course, thinks that he's better off because he has far more wins with Ducati. He's run better races, maybe not as many this year. But it's just interesting to see Jorge do this and then for Brno to follow it up.
So I have a take on this is unlike maybe other teams, Jorge came into GP in a situation where there was no clear number one rider, where he was actively pitted against the greatest rider of all time, where Yamaha went with a strategy of 2 number one riders, 2 top tier talents, and effectively pitting them against each other for like a rising tide raises all boats. So instead of having like a number one, so Jorge comes from like his entire GP career was like built and formulated under the auspices of I am in full competition with my teammate to a degree where to a higher degree than other teams may have. We are literally both number one. We're both winners. There is no clear-cut favorite, and we have to fight tooth and nail to be that person. And he thrived off of it. I mean, he ended up beating Valentino while doing it, right? He comes from a position where walls in the paddock, drama in the team, he thrived on that drama that's what he was formed. He was formed and forged in that position. So I think really it's a sense of motivating himself.
So you think he just...
Like Conor McGregor style, if you talk a bunch of shit, you have to back it up. And some people in sports talk a lot of shit because it gives them the motivation to back it up, because now there's consequence if you don't.
You think that like the beginning of last season and times when he wasn't going toe-to-toe with Dovizioso in words and in the press, you think he just felt awkward there and he had to build this himself? Like, because the whole undermine me and attack his career seemed like it came out of left field earlier this season.
It's almost like a new tactic, and look what happened. He all of a sudden he starts randomly talking shit about the nicest guy in the paddock. He starts like the guy everyone loves, right? He starts randomly talking shit out of left field, and what does he do? He's getting podiums, he's winning, he's doing well. In this race, look at you said Bizarro Jorge, right? He's battling at the end of the race. He's passing 2 guys in 1 turn. He's putting block passes on fucking Marquez like he was a different guy. He's finding, I mean, at least from where I see, he's finding motivation in that. At some point you got to fake it till you make it. You act like, if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man, but you got to act like the man. You got to put it out in the world, man. Is that the book The Secret? You got to put it out in the world. Just start talking like you're the champ, and then maybe you'll be the champ.
Yeah, it's hard to fault that. I mean, Dennis, here, I'll give you the quote, one of the quotes that stands out for me from him. I'd tell him to leave me to go my way and to focus on his own, and everything will be better, because when you have an angry Lorenzo, it's usually worse for you.
Wait, Dovi said that?
No, Jorge said that. Okay, no, he referred to himself in third person. In my opinion, he lost the argument right then when he referred to himself in third person. But that's not, I mean, it's Jorge we're talking about. He's generally a little bit awkward compared to other people, but just the leave me to go my own way. He didn't do that. So to what Kev is saying, he kind of instigated this battle to egg himself on, proceeded to do exactly the opposite, ran a Dovizioso style race, and did amazing. Did quite well.
He reverse psyched himself into it. Good for him.
I mean, at some point you got to create your own motivation. You got to,
right.
If you're not finding it somewhere else, you got to fucking create your own motivation. You got to give yourself a target. You got to do something. You have to give yourself a target to chase, and he's maybe not chasing the championship, but he needs to leave Ducati and move to Honda being the guy. And and he's got multiple wins on the Ducati. He's doing well at some podiums, and he's here to battle. I like it too, because look, Rob, we've said this a million times that this guy needs to embrace the role of the villain. This guy needs to be that guy. Aside from having a weirdly growing dad bod, Rob, cue that picture up, where he's got like a straight up paunch, which kind of makes me like him actually. But at some point, just be that villain. Just start talking shit. It's like you just talk shit straight to Dovi, and Dovi's kind of awkward back because he's just like a nice guy, and he throws some shade here and there, but just randomly talking shit and then owning it and acting, and being normal about it. That can use self-motivation. I love it.
I hope next round he comes out and actually does own up to it. Like, he followed up all the talking shit about needing the gas tank and about how Ducati wasn't really supporting him. He followed it up with wins when he got the damn gas tank. So I want to see him come out. I mean, he kind of already did this. In the post-race press conference, he specifically said that he held back in the race for the first 2/3 of it and to save the tire. And that's the Dovizioso tactic that we saw at previous rounds and we saw last year, right? At Qatar this year, it was classic. It's now what I'm actually going to call a Michelin style race. Because these tires aren't like the Bridgestones. They don't last full race distance. You can't turn a lap record every single lap of the race.
But you can turn a lap record on the final lap of the race if you manage it correctly and do the correct tactics, which is what all 3 of the guys did. And so so what Jorge is doing is when he can Jorge it, he does, but if he can't, he follows the I think this shows adaptation that we didn't expect from him before. Which is he only run and be competitive in a specific kind of race.
It's kind of interesting it's taken him this long, because it seems
title of Rob's sex tape.
It seems like this isn't, like, I guess it's hindsight, but it's an easily recognizable issue, right? At tracks where the grip is good and the tire wear is low, try and do the Jorge style race. Get out in front, like when you because you've done race simulations in FP4, or even now Marquez does them in FP1 and FP2. When you know that the tire is going to make it race distance, sure, go ahead, pull out in front, just get out there, try and run a crazy pace.
Pull out in front, title of Rob Sexton.
Oh God, again. But when you're at a track with ridiculously high wear, where the tires will struggle to make it, where it's really hot, where conditions are not favorable, Do what Dovizioso has done in the past. Do what Marquez has done in the past. Hold back. Let all the other riders, in this case, Rossi, Petrucci, Cal, let all those racers burn their tires up, pull themselves out of podium contention, and then battle with 5 to go. It's the plan now.
I mean, like at some point, what Jorge is realizing is you only have to lead one lap.
True.
You only have to be ahead at one point.
Yeah, finally. Wait, didn't he win a title exactly like that? Wait,
yes,
Rossi,
correct.
Yeah.
No, he did. That's a good point too. He was behind in the points until the final round. He literally, Rossi led the points chase in every single race in 2015 except for the end of fucking Valencia. And it's the same thing. You don't have to lead every lap. That's a tactic that worked under certain circumstances, but no longer is the case. And we faulted him a lot for running hot paces at the beginning, leading, then fading off, and we kind of laughed. But what I liked about Jorge this time is not only he talked a bunch of shit in the pre-race press conference was awesome because he's being that kind of villain we needed, but then he battled like crazy. He was, like Rob said, title of this episode, I cheered for Jorge Lorenzo. You know what I mean? Like I almost kind of cheered for him more than Dovi. Not really, but figuratively, I was like, holy shit, Lorenzo's fucking battling, dog. Like he is going tooth and nail. He had some hardcore passes. I was literally watching it live in the Seattle airport at 5:30 in the morning West Coast time, 5:45, and I'm like, holy shit, look at these passes that he is doing. And he didn't give Marquez an inch on some of those, and he realized that if he saves his tire to the end, he can battle, which is something he wasn't able to do before. He would lead, but when push came to shove and it was time to fight, he simply didn't have the ability to.
Dennis, what do you think about that? What do you think about his late braking style for passing this round? Like, it seems like Jorge has never really made passes like that before.
I wouldn't say never, because I do recall while he was still on Yamaha Mugello against Rossi, I would say, 2-3 years ago or something, we did remark about how uncharacteristic it was for him to outbrake Rossi. So he had it in him, but to be doing it on the Ducati, where you have to be comfortable on the front end, which it has that stigma to it that you can't be as comfortable on the front end as you are, say, on the M1. I think it was actually more amazing than when he did it on the M1.
It is, the Ducati is known for stability on the front end, but you really have to try hard to get the braking done. And at the last round in Sachsenring, we saw him blowing all of the braking zones.
Yeah.
And turns out that was because the rear tire had lost grip.
As you explained it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and you know what? I was excited for Jorge this time out, but more importantly, I was just excited for Ducati to see Ducati 1-2 fighting at the front and
it was only like their 5th 1-2. It's pretty rare, and they've had they're getting them this season more. They haven't had many 1-2s. My 5th comment is probably not accurate. It's off the cuff, but I heard them say something. But it's exceedingly rare for them to have those
1-2 actually.
No, they've had a few. They had him at Austria in 2016 when with Dovi and Andre and Dionysus himself, Andre Iannone won. And yes, one day we'll do an episode on how Andre Iannone is the literal embodiment of Dionysus, but we're not talking about that now. But
I'm sure Stoner and Caparossi had one back in 2007.
Not many, but I think Motegi.
I would guess Motegi as well.
But for me, yes, they did something amazing, which was they have 4 wins now among 2 riders. Yamaha has none. And what they're showing is that bike is consistently good for a couple different styles across a couple different tracks. That literally is the second best bike on the grid right now.
Yeah, it's hard to fault. Technically, Yamaha is leading the team championship. They were before this round. I haven't checked it since Mav crashed out of this race.
Right.
Those mistakes.
I'm also all for this Michelin style of racing because it proves that once you've cracked that code, any kind of different riding styles can still win as long as you race that Michelin style kind of race.
It's patience. It's almost like the first 2/3 of the race are kind of somewhat irrelevant. It's like a basketball game, right? The only thing that matters is the last 3 minutes.
Right.
Like it's just you
Right.
you put in the effort for the first 3/4 of the race just to keep yourself in the battle, just to keep yourself within sight of the leaders, and then it's an all-out attack for 5 or 6 laps. And I'm fine with an all-out attack for 5 or 6 laps. They're very exciting. Like there's like club racing is that short.
Q2. It's like the second qualifying session or like the last 5 minutes of it. You know?
What's
like,
interesting is if you build the tension to that and we begin to expect it's a payoff to like jockeying for position to see what's going to happen when the fucking other shoe drops.
It's called edging.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Everyone pause this, Google edging, and read up. Read up.
Are you sure?
Yeah, you sure? We've already got the
you're not gonna find it on YouTube.
We're gonna talk about big testicles coming later. So you'll it's like research for the rest of the episode. But
oh man,
it's a good point where it's like in the 800cc era, it was like we would build that tension, but there'd be no payoff. Right there, it would just be like, is anything going to happen? And then it wouldn't. And then when it finally did once in a while, Catalunya 2009, shit like that, you'd fucking freak out. But what we're seeing now is that tension builds, position jockeys, and then they pull the pin.
Yep.
And it's awesome. And I don't mind. Like we used to complain about Bridgestones where they could pull their fastest lap at the last lap of the race, the second to last lap, the penultimate lap. But that's because it was the same fucking lap time the entire time. This is what we're seeing is they can pull their fastest lap of the race at the end when they pull the pin and run. If they correctly manage the tire to do that at the end. And always you want the end to be the most exciting part.
Yeah.
God, so many sex jokes.
So many. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if they blow up the Death Star 45 minutes in, then it's just like them hanging out on Endor, like with a fucking teddy bears for an hour and a half. That's not fun. No one watches the fucking Endor Christmas special. No one watches that. No one gives a fuck. And the 800cc era was that. The 800cc era was that weird movie with that little blonde kid that I don't even know like who they were or what was going on, hanging out with like a fucking poor man's Ewok costume. No one even remembers that shit.
I actually don't remember that shit. I'm not even gonna. When you said the poor little blonde kid, I thought you were talking about Anakin for a second.
No, there's like this weird curly haired kid with a bandana, and they're like fighting the stormtroopers or something, and it's really strange. But that's what the 800cc era was. That was like the Death Star got blown up in the first act. The 800cc era was Austin Powers 3, where Dr. Evil gets caught in the first act. Except we don't get Jay-Z's 99 Problems sung afterwards. We just get like a bunch of boring shit where nothing happens. This time, we're seeing the build. It's fucking great. And then we get payoff. Like we know if the beginning and the middle of the race is a little boring, we're usually getting payoff because the main actors are running the right tactics.
But that's the thing, though. Even in this race, the middle and the beginning weren't exactly boring because there are other people that go ham and burn up their tires, but they make that race exciting in the beginning. I mean, even Rossi put in some exciting passes in the beginning of the race. Managed to kind of burn the front tire up a little more than he should have to battle for the win, but it still made for a good first half of the race. I mean, he called it pretty much all Saturday that his tires were going to fall off with like 7 or 8 laps to go, and that's pretty much exactly what happened.
Yeah, and again, he uses his kind of veteran ability to snipe Cal at the line, get fourth. I think we have a pretty funny meme like "Nice try, Cal," because Dorna broke the cardinal rule of the internet: don't have celebrities hold signs. Rob might have those on there. I'm not sure.
I didn't bring them.
What was interesting is what we're seeing now is forever you would see, oh well, there was great racing in the mid pack, but now there's great racing in the front, there's great racing in the middle. Like you see multiple. There's stories there that all throughout the grid, not just like in one random spot. And we're like, oh, we didn't see it on TV. Like we didn't see a lot of the Cal Rossi battle right at the end because there was an amazing battle at the front.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with having to catch that in highlights later on because the battle at the front was so good. Let's before we move on to other parts of the race, is there anything else we want to talk about with Ducati? I mean, Kev, you
I want to
kind of
ask
already
you guys, like, do we think
go ahead.
that Lorenzo can actually make a difference to Dovizioso's championship run? And if so, would it be for the better or the worse for Dovi?
That implies that he's going to be willing to finish second to Dovi
Right.
more again. Which I'm gonna pull up the standings here real fast.
He's not. I mean, first of all, Map 8 is a joke for a reason, because he ain't interested in finishing second to nobody. Certainly not when Dovi's not in the title hunt. You could make an argument that, like, look, man, 16 races in, Dovi's within a sniff of that championship. You got to do your job, especially when you haven't held up your end of the bargain. But we're halfway through the season. He's got just as many wins as Dovi, and he's looking competitive. I don't want to see him acquiesce for Dovi's championship. Look, I'm on the Dovi bandwagon as much as anyone. I coined D's out for Dovi. Like, that's my thing, dog. D's out for Dovi. Like, we started that revolution. But, like, and we might even make that shirt, right? Would you buy that shirt? Write it in the comments below. But you like that? So, but for reals, like, I don't want to see Dovi handed wins halfway through the season when he's not really in the championship. If Jorge is going to get those wins, I can't claim personally for 2 years, Jorge, please be the villain we all need. Please be that guy. And then he starts to do it. It gets him wins. And then be like, no, like, I want Dovi to win. No, fuck that. In the end, Ric Flair winning is still awesome because he poked that dude in the eye when the ref wasn't looking. And I want Jorge to do the same thing.
If Jorge ended up beating Dovizioso because he won a bunch of races, I'm totally cool with that. I mean, he's only 8, and I mean in the championship, he's only 8 points behind Dovi right now. Dovi's in third, 68 back from Marquez, and Jorge's 8 further back with Maverick in between them. I mean, at this point, Yamaha and Ducati might be battling for the manufacturer standings or the team standings. Nope. Actually, no, they're not that. Actually, the team standings are quite close. It's 241 to Yamaha, 238 to Repsol, and 218 to Ducati. So there's still a chance for any of those three to take the team standings. The manufacturer standings is just Marquez, or is just Honda up front, a little ways ahead. So that one's kind of wrapped up unless Danny Pedrosa. Well, no, Danny Pedrosa is irrelevant in this. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. No one really cares about that team standing, honestly. That's like a weird consistency thing. If you get a team standing with like no wins, I mean, they're ahead, but there's 4 wins on Ducati to none on Yamaha. That's like that. Like I said, the championship means more than anything, but after the championship, I only care about wins. If someone finishes 4th with like a bunch of podiums and some guy finishes 9th with 3 wins and hella DNFs, the dude that finished with 3 wins still had a better season.
Very much so.
Very much.
Let's do I want to talk about Ducati development moving for the rest of this year?
There is nothing in the world more that you want to talk about than development of bikes.
I know, but it's going to be hard if I can't get you to have a conversation with me about it.
Right.
I mean, Dovizioso said that they're still struggling with the 2018 tires a little bit. Jorge said he still wants corner speed, and yet they both claimed that they weren't really going to be testing anything at the Brno round. So
and yet
to me,
they showed up with brand new aero that they both use. Get their 1-2. That aero actually looked pretty good. It was interesting because in a way, the rules now that they have 8 slots of aero instead of 2 because they have to connect them. So they actually have more wings technically than they did before. Great thinking on that. British journalists complaining about how they looked. And right. And so they were testing some, but like we said, that comes down to at some point you testing the aero is as important as testing the other stuff. They're not Yamaha chasing their tail. They're just looking for a last little bit to make them competitive at other tracks that they haven't won at yet.
It's interesting to hear that though, and yet when Marquez was asked about the test in the post-race press conference, he said that HRC had brought a bunch of stuff and he was going to be working on fixing their weaknesses for the rest of the tracks for the rest of the season. Like, it seems like Ducati is still fitting their MO, where they make a bike at the beginning of the year and they don't really do much after that. Like, honestly, this aero development, all the winglets, is the most development we've seen out of Ducati mid-season since Valentino Rossi made them bring like 3 different front subframes, one aluminum, carbon fiber, and all that shit, because they were lost.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, it's 2 things. One, it's not really surprising. There was that funny quote way back in the day where Honda said, like, look, we could just buy Ducati if we wanted to. You know, their racing department is so small to not have a large amount of development is expected. It's not huge. Like, their racing department is small. They have a sponsor who can't even have their name on the bike. Like, they race, but their resources are somewhat limited. So that they're doing this development all is nice. You know, if they can get aero and all that, it's good. That Honda is showing up with hella parts to fix and tweak their minute for their rider titanically leading the championship is a really ominous sign for the rest of the season.
That's exactly what I'm worried about. If they actually do make incremental improvements, even from something that may be large changes, right? Because they could bring a new carbon fiber swing arm and help Marquez out tremendously, and that's not something that the other factories can do at the moment. And if he goes on a tear and wins the rest of the races, I'm a little pessimistic about it, I guess. Should I say that?
I was pessimistic at the beginning of the season. Remember, I'm like, who the fuck cares? It's not interesting. Like, but what I'm not pessimistic about is, we know why I'm less pessimistic, Rob, because on his 100th Grand Prix, where he had a chance to win, he decided that he would get 3rd because it was intelligent and, and playing the game and get the championship. So at one point you start to, as someone, we've seen this a million times, the guy starts to think about the championship and other guys win. We see it with Pedrosa against Lorenzo. Marquez, being intelligent, may seal the championships for us, but honestly, the championship's already decided in my eyes. He's going to win. He's the best rider on what looks like the 2nd best bike, but with the most development. By Valencia, it'll probably be the best bike, especially since, right? But what interests me more is other riders winning, the storylines of Honda or Yamaha kind of rising to ashes, maybe Jorge versus Dovi. There's a lot of ideas there that interest me, that will keep me focused, other than Marquez just running away with things, because I don't think he's going to crash and throw it away. So if he gets his 3rd on a bad day or his 2nd and other people win, that's cool for the sport.
But you found the light at the end of the tunnel there. Go ahead, Dennis.
Correct. Just like Kevin said, like, I do also think that Marquez pretty much has the title in the bag. That if HRC is testing parts now for the 2019 season, I can get behind that. But there's really no need for any, in my opinion, I don't think the RCV needs any kind of development for 2018, because it's Marquez to lose at this time.
I mean, if we're going off the light at the end of the tunnel there, Marquez could kind of have a Johann Zarco 2016 season here, right? They get to midway. He thinks he's got the title wrapped up. He somehow starts getting 4th and 5th. And I mean, in Marquez's case, it'll be 2nd or 3rd. It's just not going to be a string of wins. So that would be an interesting storyline.
We're talking about a Marquez maturing mixed with his like ungodly natural talent. I don't think it's going to be like Zarco-esque or anybody else. I think the most dangerous part about this year in Marquez is that he is growing up.
So he's now, as I think someone already coined the term, he's no longer win or bin. Now he's just win or podium.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And that's unfortunate. That's how you win titles. You know what I mean?
That's how you easily win titles.
Easily.
Yeah, that's
right.
Stoner did it in his first year in the Honda. Never off the podium except when his old Ducati.
Right, and that's how Lorenzo did it when, even though Pedrosa won 7 races to Lorenzo's 6th, all he ever had to do was finish 2nd.
Yeah.
Oh
man.
The thing about Marquez though that's different is he's an exciting rider, and if he knows he can get the win, he does. But I think for him, it was in that milestone of the 100th GP was important. I also think that, speaking of that the idea that Dovi won his 100th GP with Ducati was really fucking cool. It's certainly a great way to seal. It certainly makes it better than the weird meme they posted where he was like disappearing, like Thanos snapped his finger. Like, Do they not know what like memes are? Like in the same weekend, they had the riders hold up signs saying not to light flares, which of course means everyone's going to light flares. I say that, and Simon Patterson says, well, they're not going to light flares if they start arresting people. I'm like, if they start arresting people live on TV, the sport's going to die, you fucking idiot. But the other thing that you don't do is you don't hold up signs, because it only took me and my man Remy 5 seconds to have Rossi holding a sign that says P is stored in the balls, because it is. Fight me if you don't think it is.
No one wants to fight you, Kev.
And then they have Dovi. Like, I don't know if someone saw a bunch of pictures from the Avengers and thought that just looked cool, but I'm like, bro, that means he's fading away and dead.
Right? Like even if you remove the Thanos reference, there's never a good time to use a dissipating imagery unless it's a pedophile.
Especially on a guy who is struggling to regain his form for the factory, who's been fading and having problems. What are you doing?
That's so meta. So meta
it's
for
the most meta thing ever.
Oh, I can't even. I didn't catch it before. Thank you.
And yeah, it's just like, what the fuck? Like, it was so weird. The whole weekend was really weird with with their like online presence. It was like one of those weekends that really reminds me, these fucking people have no idea. Like, they're so insulated, and like, this is the real reason I don't want 20 and 21 and 22 races a season. This paddock is this weird insulated little ball of money laundering, and like and they travel around the world in this ball, and like we've seen it with the journalists, we've seen it when like with the booze and the wings and all this stuff. We've talked about it ad nauseum, but it's like they're this insulated little corporate pack. They're so disconnected from like their actual fans and the actual world. And you have 22 races, that's only going to be magnified. They're never going to be not racing. They're never going to be not a part of this weird traveling circus.
I mean, hopefully guys like you will just give them massive feedback on so their echo chamber doesn't really get too bad.
Right. And I'll do that by having my media credentials and standing up and asking, because we got media credentials, guys.
We're infiltrating. We
infiltrating
are
infiltrating yet. Ooh,
not yet.
Not for Coda yet, but maybe for Sonoma. Moving on up in the world.
Moving on
up. Is there anything else that we want to talk about Marquez? I mean, I'll talk about his front tire. And he grained it. He tore the front tire, and he used that maturity of his 100th GP race to not push. I think he specifically said that he grained it on the right and was able to kind of fight Jorge in the lefts and still battle for that second position, but he knew that he wasn't able to win the race because of it. I guess that's not really a conversation. That's just me telling you what happened.
That's not a question, Professor.
All right, Kev. Let's move on.
If you know the reference of Professor Umbate Tumba from the Ivory Coast, you're my new best friend.
Did you make promises last episode about someone getting references?
Yeah, but like too many people got it too quick. I couldn't I had too many messages too fast.
So make them more difficult.
Yeah. I've been talking with Knack, right, about moto racing. Like, MotoGP fans are a super weird intersection of we have a weirdly large following of like hardcore art fans and hardcore artist fans, but also hardcore seasons 3 through 8 Simpsons fans.
Also your fault.
We say my fault like it's a bad thing. It's a good thing. Where like a couple of different groups of people all meet. Like, the Venn diagram of GP is way higher brow than people think. And look at, hey, who's that? Citra.
No, that's Pearl.
Oh, it's Pearl. Okay. It like that Venn diagram of fans is way more sophisticated than you think. This goes back to me wanting to have a whole episode with Rob where I can explain how giving the finger on YouTube constantly is an acceptable and highbrow form of human communication.
So if you don't know, Kev is the artist of the group, and he's also the one that turned me on to following Dr. Zayas on Facebook. which is mostly season 3 through season 8 Simpsons references.
Right.
So I feel like maybe it's the Facebook algorithm's fault. And it's just bringing together, like, the people that already follow those things are the one that get BrotoGP like stuff on their Facebook and just so happen to follow
Even on
us.
Instagram, I was in 7-Eleven yesterday, and they had a thing holding all these keychains with names, and I just took a picture of it and wrote, "Where's Bort?" And like 100 people messaged me about it. That's so obscure.
Sorry. My name is also Bort.
My son is also named Bort.
I forgot about that one. Oh man, there have been
The
a
reason
lot.
this is when I go back to understanding the audience. Okay, like what GP doesn't understand is that, yes, we all may be sophisticated, highbrow, intelligent fans. We understand Kevin's random talk about neo-Dadaism. We understand, like, interesting software engineer. Rob is breaking down rules and all of that stuff. But if I say P is stored in the balls, you all think it's hella funny.
Yeah, they haven't really been able to merge that Venn diagram together in a successful way with their marketing.
No,
But,
you
I
have
mean-
to understand, like, this is what I mean. Like, you have to understand your audience. Like, if you could find a way to connect, like, academia with solid, dope knowledge of memes and, like, bring them together, you would grow this audience huge.
I feel like you're inventing yourself a job position.
Yes, I am. Anyway, enough babbling on to racing before Rob kicks me off this.
Yeah, right. No, let's talk about not racing.
Myself. I'm a Landry myself.
Okay, well, actually, Dennis, I have one question for you. Not really a question. I would like an explanation on that poster that is behind you. I feel like it's changed since the last time you were on camera.
I mean, I'm just celebrating current events. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, that's true. How many can you change the poster every single time you're on camera? Like every time you record with us?
I might be able to. Do you remember that number 1 that's shaped like a penis?
Actually, so we should probably tell all the fans listening on iTunes. Normally, Dennis has a Casey Stoner poster behind him in his man cave, but he has decided to change it to Jorge with his with his penis shaped number 1 on the front of his motorcycle. Yeah. No, I do remember that. It was a little weird. It's supposed to be JL, right?
Yeah, it is. It's supposed to be JL.
That penis-shaped number 1 is as useless as that yellow lemon-shaped rock over there. Wait a minute. There's a lemon behind that rock. Yeah.
Oh, lost my shit.
Yeah.
Perfect, Kev. Way to go. All right. Speaking of losing my shit, I heard you wanted to talk to us about how the announcers said big testicles.
Rob, I have sent you the message. If you could play it for the fans.
And a stiff drink tonight.
Here it is.
Give me the hand signal.
Performance they put in over those 41 minutes.
Big testicles coming up for these guys tomorrow, so big testicles coming.
Feel free, friends and family of the MotoGP Nation, to rewind that clip and listen to it again. While I may have repeated it, I even slowed it down. He clearly says big testicles. So I had a lot of messages about, like, and I talked about it on Reddit, like, this was like the greatest thing ever. The amount of people who heard this. But I know that we are doing our job right. I know that we're doing our job right when our entire group of fans is stoked to hear Rob talk about the traction circle for 45 minutes. But also when they hear someone say big testicles coming, the first thing they do is like, I gotta tell Kevin. Kevin has to know about this. This is the most important thing in the world. Big testicles coming. Again, the merging of high and low brow is so perfect because he said big testicles coming. And the reason I know he said that is because one of our fans tagged him on Twitter with the video, and he even responded with like, LL, oh my God. Like, bro, you said big testicles coming. Big test, of course, coming up. Like, I have never smashed that many. Like, he was like the fucking Count from Sesame Street. Big test, of course. Big test, of course. Big test, of course. Big testicles. Big testicles coming. Like, I mean, what in the fuck was even happening?
That's brilliant. That's
what I love
brilliant.
is that in this amazing race weekend, the number one story is still, is Big Testicles coming better or worse than Herve eating a booger live on television?
Oh,
that's a good question.
No, apples to oranges, man.
That's the question I'm going to ask everyone at Moto America in 4 days.
I'm gonna go with worse. I think I like the booger better.
Herve owned up to the booger. He's like, "Oh shit, got caught." Like,
yeah, that's what really did it for me. The fact that he just straight up like looked at the camera and was like, "Oh, fuck. Like I know what you saw."
The problem is that we've all eaten a booger before, but we all know that Big Testicles store the pee.
You know, I've definitely eaten a booger before, but I've never said Big Testicles coming on. Oh wait, there it is.
Yep.
Never mind.
Done. Finish the episode, guys. It's done.
Dennis, you got to vote as well. Come on.
Right.
No, man, it's Big Testicles coming. It's Herve booger. Yesterday's news.
You're just not in. It's the booger's not timeless yet. It's
disgusting. It's freaking disgusting. I want to wipe it off my memory and flick it like a fucking booger.
The booger is timeless. Okay, it's timeless. Like, to bring it back to The Simpsons, the booger eating is like when he goes and works for Hank Scorpio. It's timeless. It's never not funny. It's classic. Every single second of the booger eating is funny. But Big Testicles coming is the Armin Tamzarian of MotoGP. Remember when it turns out Skinner is actually Armin Tamzarian?
Oh.
Big Testicles coming flipped my world upside down. I no longer knew what was real. I no longer knew what was fake. I had to question my own reality. And I choose to believe that Big Testicles coming is what was said.
All right. I'm taking that questioning our reality, and I'm moving on to Maverick Vinales' performance this weekend. So the one thing that I really want to talk about here is, well, we can't actually talk about his crew chief because apparently that was requested of some journalists in a press conference that they were not allowed to ask about his split from Romain Forcada. But we might get to that. Kev, can you confirm that?
Confirm what? I'm sorry. I was checking our syllabus to catch up. Africa was so stoked with Big Testicles coming.
Maverick split with his crew chief Forcada. Yamaha requested that the journalist would not ask about that.
Yes. So, do you really want me to go off on this? This is
go ahead.
This is news.
Dennis Noye said it. It was covered a lot. Everyone complained about it. Everyone said, like, this is bullshit. Why are we doing that? But yet no one fucking stood up and said, hey, by the way, so what's up with you and Forcada? They didn't just ignore it. They took that shit like
I feel like you're going to understand this next weekend at Sonoma because there may be positions that you have to put yourself in that are very similar. Like, do you want to get kicked out of the Yamaha press room and not allowed to ask Maverick any questions?
Okay, so first of all, if I get kicked out of the Yamaha press room, I don't plan on it. But if this happens, it's going to be the best thing that ever happened to BrotoGP. I will straight do like the fucking I will do like Ricky Bobby's dad. I will get kicked out of an Applebee's, okay? I will get kicked out of an Applebee's and I will tell the fucking press officer kicking me now that we did time together, you got shit coming up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, here's the thing. I'll get kicked out because I asked Cam Bobier if he thought the Hobbit trilogy should have just been one movie and not three, and what was up with that? Wasn't that an obvious money grab?
I don't think that's not really a kick-outable offense, though. I feel like you got to specifically not.
It will be when I've
Abide by
asked
the
it
rules.
19 times straight. Right.
Please don't do that. Please don't do
Here's the problem. Like I'm not gonna, we would get kicked out because we're obnoxious and ridiculous, right? Like, but we're actually gonna do a real interviews, and I guarantee you, I could do 10 times the better long form sit down interview with any of those writers if we felt like it. But getting kicked out for asking the problem with Mav and Forcada and all the drama, it is literal news story pertaining to GP, what's happening with a top level factor. This is real news. This isn't fluff. It's important. It's real news. It digs deep. It's a real story. And the idea that they're told not to ask and they all just sit on their ass and take it is fucking bullshit. I mean, if I'm at Moto America and they say, hey, so we're here and hey, Yoshimura says you're not allowed to ask who you think should have the seat now that Roger's retiring. If I'm not allowed to ask Roger about retiring, why the fuck am I there?
Exactly.
Like, that's a real story. I'm not asking Jorge Lorenzo, do you fucking have, is all those suitcases you're carrying around your Instagram picture, are those all your scarves or only half your scarves? I can't ask, if I ask Jorge Lorenzo, why are your stories just obvious shills for products that you're sponsored by? Okay, I can see that. But the idea that a reporter can't ask a legitimate, serious question or actual real journalist question, like a break between a major star, a highly successful crew chief, and what this means for the long term of the sport. Forcada's talked about maybe going to the SIC racing team. Jorge Lorenzo has said, I probably won't re-up with him, but fuck, he could go to Honda. Why not? After all this bullshit, that's all a big deal. If we couldn't ask Rossi why he got rid of Burgess and brought on Louis C.K., that's fucked. So what this shows is they're saying, no, you just can't ask questions. All you are is mouthpieces for us.
You just regurgitate our news, our press releases. Right.
Just puke our bullshit onto everyone else and have them eat it like little birds. Fuck that. I'm here for a story. They should be there for a story. The idea that all those journalists didn't band together and every single one of them asked, what's up with you and Forcada is bullshit. I can't believe the spinelessness these guys have. They're all willing to complain about it on Twitter. Simon Patterson loves to complain, and MCN News love to complain about the fact that Dorna is now live streaming the interview questions, and they're saying, well, hey, why do we even come to these things and ask questions if they're just going to show it live? We don't even get to put it in print and sell our magazines or have our website get hits and clicks. Potentially a real question. Why are we here if you're giving our product for free? Right. Valid concern. It's worth talking about. But at the same time, you can't be like, well, I'm mad they're giving away my questions for free, but I'm only going to ask the questions they tell me to ask. Well, bro, that means they're not giving your content away for free because your content is actually the pre-approved content for them. You're just the delivery service. So there really is no fucking reason for them to not live stream it because all you are is their little errand boy.
So maybe the solution then for them is to ask these questions away from the specified press conferences and then print the answers. So it works out better for them in the long run, and they do get the questions.
I tell you right now, if MCN had a guy that stood up and said after, hey, we were told not to ask this question, why? You know what I mean? I'm not going to get political, but we saw this with the... Right. They'd sell some clicks. You create your own drama, and that's real drama worth creating. That's a real story. Censorship of the media. And if it's just like this stuff that happened recently at a Sarah Sanders press conference, I'm not going to get into whether it's good or bad. All I'm going to say is that a reporter asked a question. She was shut down. The next person stood up and asked the same question and pointed to the shutdown recorder who got censored. That's actual standing together, because in the end, MCN, Super Bike Planet, all these guys, they're part of the same group, and that none of them actually had the balls to do this just shows that their little complaints on Twitter, it's all empty threats. You're just little sycophant fans who will do what you're told because you're, $65,000 a year job that you complain about traveling the world too much. You're not going to do.
All right, let's bring this back to Maverick's race. Do you think this? I mean, I'm trying to relate it back to.
Yeah, what race?
Weekend.
Fuck you
Sorry,
talking
weekend. I'm trying to relate it back to your comment about is flipping the script or ruining the reality. The reality of Maverick's weekend was that he qualified at the very back of Q1, and when you're in the mid pack like that, chances of you getting taken out are pretty damn good.
It's like Rossi 2006 Qatar. He gets taken up by Elias. He qualifies 14th. If you qualify shitty into the back of the pack in the melee, that's on you. Like Rossi didn't qualify bad. Like that's on you. Now it sucks that you got taken out. Bradl did a bonehead move. But if you're in the middle of the shit, like if you're running with the bulls, be way out in front. If you're in the tail end, it's a problem.
Yeah, so this is kind of a big strike against Yamaha's consistency. I mean, Dennis, do you think Maverick is going to be able to, with all this drama and his crew chief and having this bad weekend, do you think he's going to be able to rebound quickly, or is he just going to have kind of a petulant child sort of end of season where he's just whining about shit and doesn't get the results he needs?
Well, given that he has a history of the latter, I would say the latter. Just
sad times.
kicking rocks. I mean, it's just. It's hard. I would imagine if I was him, it would just be hard to find the gumption to kind of keep doing this when the results just aren't there and you're not seeing the improvements manifest. I don't know. I don't know how he'd be able to do it. I don't know how he'd be able to turn it around.
Yeah, when your crew chief might be suspect as well. Like if he's fired him, how Kev, we've had this conversation before many times. But if you're thinking about dumping the girlfriend, you probably should just get it over with and then not keep her around.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing too is that he's like, you don't ghost her. And that's what he's doing. Like Forcada said that he got told by Yamaha, Maverick hasn't said shit to him. They've literally not had that conversation. And what that shows to me is he don't got that gumption, because Rossi, at least he said, look, I can't change the bike, can't change myself, can't change the team, can change the crew chief. There's my reason. Whether you like it or not, I don't care. And I was going to do it better, but I had to do it now because they broke the news story early because some journalists actually did their fucking job. But right? Like again, did their job, just like they broke the Casey Stoner and a story ahead of time because they did their job. They reported news when they found it. The Forcada thing is super weird. Hold on, I'll give you a second. Give me a second, Dennis.
Yeah.
The Forcada thing is super weird because Maverick hasn't said shit to him. That to me says that he isn't actually convinced that's it. Because look, all is fair in love and war. He's getting paid millions of dollars to go win races, and if he thinks that's the wink link, you just straight up say it. Hey, bro, I don't got confidence in you anymore. We got to move on. Because Forcada said he doesn't even know if he's like with Maverick for the end of the season or not. He thinks he might be done like some point in the next few races. He's not sure because Mav hasn't said anything. And like you said, the petulant child, argument, and he did that once and then saw it through. And I gave him a lot of credit for it. He complained about the Honda. He moved to the KTM, went on to seal the deal and win the race in spectacular fashion, win the championship in spectacular fashion in Moto3. And I said it was boss because he was right at the time. And he threw his fit. He quit on that one race, remember? But like, when he quit on the team, he told them right to their face, fuck you guys. You're not giving me the bike I have to win a championship. I'm not even showing up. You're not doing your job. Why do I do mine?
Yeah, so slightly different than this situation because now he's ghosting. He's being quiet.
Ghosting ain't balling. You either say it or you don't. If you want to be done, stand up like a fucking man and do it. Maverick is not 16 years old, and I know they're insulated and all that stuff like that, but like common, dignity is a thing that that anyone can have regardless of the situation. Maverick, this is the first time I've ever been like, dang, Mav, like you haven't even told the guy you fired him. Like you had Karen from HR call him and let him know that like we were taking resumes now.
Dennis, you had a point there. Did we go on too long?
No, I mean, I was just wondering because both Rossi and Burgess were pretty much high profile in their respective roles, and they were able to split with integrity. So why is it that Vinales and Forcada can't seem to do the same thing now if it seems to be the only thing left for them to do? Like,
I mean, there were other like extenuating circumstances with Rossi and JB, right? I'm pretty sure his wife was in very poor health at the time, and JB kind of also wanted to retire. Like it was good timing for both of them. I mean, Forcada is, yeah, I mean, he expects to be at Yamaha. He expected to be at Yamaha next year and expected to be in the factory team. And now he's been surprised over like 3 days.
Yeah.
Right, and
My
surprised
point
with
is there was more of a history between Rossi and Burgess, like long-term history and results. And Maverick and Forcada have only been at it for like a season and a half. Like, is there really a lot at stake to just go your separate ways now?
It kind of might be what Kevin's point was, that maybe he's not convinced that Forcada is actually the problem, so he's kind of wavering on this decision. I don't think that Forcada is actually the problem.
Yeah.
The kid, like everything that we hear about his setup and his feedback, like he seems to agree with Rossi, and then they change something and it works in one place, but then it doesn't work in another, right? It seems like all his woes are very fickle, which to me suggests a rider confidence issue, not actually a setup problem. So, I mean, he's even been talking about the chassis and how he wanted the very first Yamaha chassis that he ever raced on. He wanted that feeling back. They give him something that's more like that, and he doesn't improve, right? So there's a lot going on here, and he hasn't figured out exactly what the problem is. So how do you fix it if you don't know what it is?
Yeah.
Let's transition over to Rossi though. And round up Yamaha a little bit. Actually, maybe not Rossi. Should we talk about the stuff that came out about their development and how supposedly Rossi and Maverick are wrong with their feedback? You know, I want to talk about this.
Well, what I want to hear is, what about the crank weight being wrong?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I'm actually kind of perturbed at this. The, Yamaha, Rossi and Maverick have been saying for months. Rossi's even said for 18 months that the electronics are contributing to poor rear tire grip, and that's what's making them slow. Yamaha has now come out and said that they got the crank weight wrong. They went too light on the crank weight, and they're not able to control it, and that's what's causing their rear grip issues. Like, the thing that gets me about this is it's like, one, who fucking cares? Like, every single factory has things that they did wrong that they can't change, and then they make the other parts better to substitute or to fix that issue or to overcome that issue. Yeah. Right? So Yamaha shouldn't, like, don't tell your riders that you screwed up on the crank weight. Now they're just going to have this in the back of their mind all the time, and maybe they'll believe you that it's wrong and it can't be fixed, and they won't go faster.
Right.
Second part, fix everything else. Work on the electronics still, work on the swing arm, work on the chassis, work on your tire temperature management and how you use the tire, work on your whole entire setup, and overcome the problems that you have with the crank weight. Like, I mean, that's why you're a factory.
Even if the crank weight, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. The crank weight is wrong.
Yeah.
You don't put it out there in the world, because
Exactly.
the moment you put it out there in the world, you give the riders an excuse to not try as hard, or if something's not working, they literally know, well, the crank weight's wrong, I can't work around it, as opposed to continuing to fine step and refine it. It's like, we got to get 2 more %, 1 more %, 0.5% here and there. The whole fucking sport is so psychological. It's so insane. Mm-hmm. It's all in the head to an extent that's pretty unreal at times. I mean, yes, you have to have the best machine. It's probably more 60-40, bike rider combination than it, as opposed to like 80-20, like they used to joke about, all that stuff. But the reality is you can't give people a reason to be okay with not doing well.
I mean, we see that at Yamaha specifically because Maverick and Rossi have been struggling with the same thing, but Maverick is also struggling with extra stuff. Rossi doesn't struggle with early race pace on a full fuel tank like Maverick does. I don't think he's once complained about that problem. They're on a very similar motorcycle, if not the exact same hardware. And they're riding, like, they both have enough time with the Yamaha that shouldn't be a huge issue for just one rider. They can both turn the pace. Like, their race pace at the end of races is often very comparable. Mav might actually be faster in certain situations. That suggests to me that some of those issues are all in Maverick's head. And Rossi doesn't lack that confidence, which is why he's not dealing with those issues.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a heady guy and you're fiery, sometimes that works in your favor, like we talked about in Moto 3, but sometimes you can find yourself biting off more than you can chew with it. You know what I mean? It can be, excuse me, at some point you also have to be a bit level-headed and realistic about like your situation, how to get around it. And you can't just like
keyword there, get around it, right? You
Right.
don't let the team, like the team gives you the cop out of like, oh, the crank weight is wrong, we can't do anything about it, sorry. Like, no, we're gonna move past this issue, we're gonna work on something else, and we're gonna overcome.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly, like, it goes back to the Pareto principle. We talked about the 80-20 rule, is that if it's going to take this massive amount of effort just to deal with the crank, fuck it. Let's just spend our energy where we're going to get a higher percentage results elsewhere and work around it. Because right now we can't change the crank. So bitching about it ain't going to do anything. If we can't change the crank because of engine rules and all of that, there's no use complaining about it because we can't. This is a spoon. I don't know. The
Fidgeting Kev is back.
This is what I need to tell Maverick. The question is not bend the spoon, but that there actually is no spoon at all.
Sorry for everyone on iTunes. No, you got it.
Yeah.
He has a spoon.
I'm holding the spoon. It looks just like you think a spoon looks like. Like, it literally looks like a spoon. If you can't change the crank, then quit bitching about it, because I can't change it. Like, you know what I mean? It'd be like bitching about that, like, you can't change it. So there's no, if your reality and your situation has certain fixed things you can't change, then you need to work around it. You need to deal with it, because if you focus on, it's like victimhood to a certain extent. If you start taking identity within that victimhood, it can really pull you back, as opposed to recognizing that you starting from a lower position that you prefer, but that means you have to do more things. And while it sucks, just know that's the case.
Yeah, there's only one situation where I can see that I'm actually going to give Yamaha props for telling us about the crank weight, and it's if they bring a brand new engine to the Valencia test with a new crank weight, and they're ridiculously faster. Like, they beat their qualifying time at Valencia. They hold a race pace better over the 2 or 3 day test. That's the only thing. Just like we talked about Jorge and getting that new fuel tank, you back it up, and I give you props for it.
Yeah, I did read a little bit about that, saying that if they finally fix it, whether it's the crank or something else, but when or if they finally fix it, the bike is proven to be good enough to be able to produce results regardless of that, whatever is wrong with it right now. That if Yamaha finally fixes it, it could be another formidable M1 on the grid.
If I tell you that, look, we can't change the crank, fix everything else, right? And you get that bike to be a race-winning bike in spite of that, what happens in 2019 when you show up with a good crank?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
And I mean, and everyone's saying that Honda and Ducati have figured out the IMU and cheating with that better than Yamaha. And what do they get in 2019? Spec IMU.
Right.
So all this effort now, I mean, it is kind of the easy way, right? Like, Yamaha is essentially flipping the switch. They get new regulations and they get a new crank, and they might be better, but they put in the effort now, and it will help them considerably next year. We just need to see them do it. If they struggle all in the beginning of next season, they're going to get massive facepalm the entire time.
Absolutely. Right. And then Mav has 2 more years to endure.
And Rossi.
Oh,
God, well. two retirement years, or 2 years to retirement of lackluster M1. Ugh.
Well, I mean, and that brings us to a separate point. Yes, 2 years retirement of lackluster, but he just scored his 6,000 point. He's the first rider in the history of GP to score 6,000 points. It's interesting. In the end, he's still competitively up there. He's got podiums. He's doing well. He's fighting close battles. He's getting 4th on his bad days and all of that. It's not like that bike just needs a little bit different. But if you just throw your hands up in the air and just say, fuck it, and you got to keep your nose to the grindstone when you're doing it right. Like, you got to follow Dovi's lead. Eventually, the payoff was fucking massive. You know what I'm saying? And at some point, Mav has got to realize, like, you can't be petulant like this. You can't be a child. Like, if you think Forcada's the problem, man the fuck up. Tell him, look, this ain't working, so We got a couple more races together. I'm looking for someone new, but let's get some results now because that's going to get you a better job. I'm in it with you for the next 3 races because we need to find problems while we then go our separate ways.
Yep. Sounds like we've got a good plan for him, Kev. Let's see if he listens.
The amount of good plans I have is insane.
Damn.
Dang.
All right. Let's move on. It's been about an hour and 10 minutes. I want to talk about Moto 2 because there was some positive response to our Moto 2 episode last time out, and we got this cool meme right here. No soup for you. Wait. This Spanish, no wins for you. Kev, I think this is your favorite point about the 2018 Moto 2 season.
It's such a good point. I love it because like the Spanish Armada finally has been driven back. Like again, we are now, what are we, 10 races in with not a single Spanish winner in Moto 2. I fucking love it. It's my favorite part about Moto 2. This is what I look forward to every single Moto 2 race. Is that no Spanish winner. I want to keep it going. Can Alex Marquez be the greatest Spanish letdown of all time? This kid is earmarked for the factory seat and he just can't get it done. And now you're telling me that like this year when Honda went out of their way to get every rider from his generation out of his spot to give him a clear path to the title, right when the VR46, the fruits of their labors are just like blooming left and right.
They tried so hard to block the talent that they kind of just missed the insurgence of the Italian VR46 talent, and Oliveria. They missed that as well. It was, what did he say in the post-race press conference? Like a single Portuguese on an Italian pizza.
Right.
The race was amazing to see all those 4 battle up front for the last couple of laps.
No, it was a great race. It was wild. It had a lot of storylines. Pecco leading, Luca Marini on, coming onto form. Oliveira, getting back on the podium or getting back in the win column. KTM versus Kalex. I never say I root actively against, but I just root against Alex Marquez as hard as I can. Okay,
fully against.
Fully against. But speaking of that, Rob and Dennis, you have to take this on for a second. My battery on the computer is running low. I got to plug it in.
You better be quick.
I can't fake it to make it like you can.
Well, so Dennis, let's see how you do with this one.
I just turn my camera around and then just lean over and try to get it.
What?
I got some the charger.
Yeah, no, just run.
I got some
tight-fitting
pants on, though. Feels like I'm wearing nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Damn sexy Flanders. Damn
Stupid
sexy Flanders. Oh, stupid sexy Flanders. So close. No, I mean, the one of the talking points that I had here was that the talent level in Moto 2 has become very high in spite of Alex Marquez, in spite of Honda kind of seemingly paving the way for his title. Why, Dennis, do you have any idea why he's faltering? Like, are people just outriding him, or is there something else going on?
I never understood or saw the Alex Marquez hype. Like, I said it from last season, and fuck him. Like, I can't get behind it. Like, what's the big deal about Alex Marquez?
So no hype train for you, and you think he's just matching expectations now, of just kind of not getting the wins and throwing it away in races like this one, where he made a reasonably good pass and then he just kind of pushed the front too hard into the right turn.
That's nothing new. He's done that before.
God, it's the same old story with that kid. I mean,
you know what? As far as Moto 2 is concerned, Alex Marquez is up there with Old Story, and I don't even know where he ought to go.
So he's reached the level of journeyman effectively, where if he does eventually win, we'll be surprised because it wasn't normally in the cards for him.
Tom Luthi might have a better Moto 2 career than Alex Marquez will ever have.
Wait, yeah. I gotta look that one up.
Well, just because you said journeyman.
Also, Tom Luthi doesn't have incest face.
That's bad. That's real. That's one of the topics that's not allowed to be talked about, but it's okay.
Well, it's not his fault.
That's why. That's why it's kind of okay.
Okay, right.
Yes, at this point, Tom Luthi has more wins and likely considerably more points than Alex Marquez has.
And
per year.
considering Alex Marquez's team and what's happened with MotoGP, maybe has more GP experience than Marquez will ever have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, if
the real
Alex
story
Marquez moved up to MotoGP on the Mark VDS, like it would not be a good look for him either way. So it's kind of a slight saving grace there that he can't go up into MotoGP on that shitty satellite.
It would
Honda.
look bad.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. The real story of what's going on isn't really that like Alex Marquez like sucks or not. Look, he could win races. He's a Moto3 champion. He's not like a schlep. You know, I do think I do think that he is a product of his environment. And I think he won that Moto3 championship because he got that bike from Honda. That was the KTM killer, they called it. And he's taken advantage. Like, I've said this a million times, 1/3 luck, 1/3 skill, 1/3 who you know, and he knows all the right people. And he takes advantage of that, and luck to an extent is actually taking advantage of positive situations that come your way, but you have to seal the deal. But for me, the story of the season really is that, and we talked about this a while ago, that the idea of franchises are coming on the scene. You're seeing but you are seeing the full-on hardcore fruits of the labor of the VR46 squad. You are seeing the fruits of the labor of KTM's factory involvement and hardcore involvement. And the Mark VDS team kind of rested in their laurels, and you can see this because they're going back to hiring Tito Rabat, right? Like they're going backwards. And if they've been standing still for 2 seasons now. This is the second season they've been standing still, that VDS team. And the VR46 team has spent, you can't open up social media on any random day if you are a VR46 follower and not see those kids getting trained, not see them riding in some way, not see them improving like at some level. KTM has constant development, more chassis left and right. Like the Mark VDS team is acting like this is 2015 and not 2018. And for me, what you're seeing is Alex Marquez is finally in a situation where he doesn't have the best of everything and he's floundering hard. And you're seeing riders who have had good and then not had good, and then when they get it, they really are taking advantage of it. They're all on upward trends, and they're like on a static trend, which means relatively speaking, they're on a downward trend.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not moving forward, you're going backwards in racing.
Right. If you're going
faster,
if you're going 65 miles an hour straight, and someone is accelerating away from you at an increasing rate, you are effectively losing. You are effectively slowing.
Yeah, you're losing ground to them.
Right.
Yeah. So let's transition and talk about Luca Marini then.
Luca Marini is Valentino Rossi's son with an illegitimate woman. And to cover this up, during the height of his popularity, they passed it off like it was his half brother.
It's like a Valentino Rossi beneath
Also, Valentino Rossi is Steve McQueen's love child. I'm dead serious.
Wait, I wonder if the ages work out there.
They do. I've looked into it. No, Luca Marini is Can I keep? Do you want me to keep going, or do you want Dennis step in? Okay,
no, I got nothing.
Luca Marini.
Give a little bit.
Luca Marini is exactly what the VR46 team, the Academy, is designed to do. He is not a transcendent talent. He is not like a world beater, right? He doesn't have that ish. Like I said, this 1/3 talent, 1/3 luck, 1/3, who you know. He does he knows the right people, and he's in the right place, and he's being trained massively. So, of course, his skills are going up. The team is strong. He's trained all the time. He's surrounded by top-level riders. The rising tide raises all boats, and he is going to get better. What you're seeing is the average Italian is getting significantly better, while the transcendent talents like your Peccos are dominant, right? So, Luca Marini, people said, like, where'd he come from? Like, why all of a sudden? Well, it's not really all of a sudden. He's been training hardcore, and now he's fighting for podiums. But when you have a whole grip of Italians constantly training, constantly improving, constantly getting better, even if you're someone who's a lot better than them, there's too many of them getting better. You can't beat them all the time. So he's just a product of his environment right now, which is being surrounded by people solely existing to get him better at racing motorcycles.
I mean, I'm trying to process whether or not I think that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like I guess there are quite a few riders that we've seen move up into GP that they're not at the forefront of talent. They're hard workers. They put in the time and they get reasonably good results. Like, I mean, Petrucci and Zarco are probably the two most recent ones that are exactly like that. Petrucci was not even in the Grand Prix paddock, and Zarco spent forever in Moto 2, but put it together and they both have really solid results in GP. So if Marini's end goal is to make it into MotoGP, like most of these racers, like that's most of their goals, then he can do just fine if he stays on this path. And if he keeps training with these Italians and he keeps getting the support from the VR46 Academy.
Mm-hmm. Right. He's like Alvaro Bautista.
Yeah.
Without the dope stash.
Well, wait. So he'll have a decade-long GP career that was probably 8 years too long?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, whether it's good or bad for the sport, I suppose, is a weird question. It's only.
I just meant for him, not for the sport. But
yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, it's never not bad to be surrounded by high-level talent. You know, like you never want to be the best guy in the room.
That's why I am fine with. Yeah, that's why I'm fine with barely qualifying in Moto America races.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm still racing against JD Beach and Valentin de Bees.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You never want to be the best guy in the room because you're not improving. So if you get if you get all the Spanish riders, like that little crew together that are racing around Aragon all the time and stuff like that little tight knit crew, the Pole and Tito and the Marquezes. But what happens is that the VR46 team is amassing a ever growing number of people who are constantly improving. Yeah. So to me, it's great for the sport, and it's really good for Luca Marini because it doesn't really matter who's best, like out at the ranch and all that. It's just, you train, you win, you lose. If you're constantly surrounded by good people, it's going to make you better all around, and you're seeing that effect. I mean, you look at the last 2 years, and you're seeing the fruits of their labor finally coming to fruition. It's, it was a multi-year plan that they saw through. The only people it's bad for are Americans.
Because we have no plan in place?
We have literally zero. And so if you're telling me you look at Valentino Rossi, it's combining with the Italian Federation and a major television sponsor, and we're finally seeing the consistent fruits of the labor. We're seeing the Italian resurgence is fully in effect. This is the year where there's no Spanish win whatsoever, right? So they've battled them back, they battled the Orcs back. And then you see the Asia Talent Cup is raising that, and SIC is, Sepang National Circuit's making a team. You see where the Asian Talent Cup can bring riders in from Japan and Malaysia and all of that. Spain is undoubtedly going to respond. And then you see, what's America doing? The only people that it's bad for is us. People, I constantly am asked this message on Instagram: who's the next American in GP? And I always respond with, there isn't one.
We get that. Yeah, we get that question a lot. I mean, we have a significantly more investment into road racing with Moto America these days, but it's not the same thing as a VR46 Academy and having investment into the Grand Prix paddock. It's not like someone that wins our Superbike championship is going to go over, they're going to do it young enough and then they're going to go race Moto 3 and then move on the way up. And the jump from Superbike champion to Moto 2 is very interesting. And yeah. It didn't work once before.
It's not just that, because this the Superbike champion in Moto America isn't being raised to make each improve to raise each improved step. What do you see the Moto 3 riders doing for the VR46 team? They're racing around Misano on R6s. They're being trained already
with the Moto 2 riders that are unbelievably faster than them
for a point of reference to chase. Right, it's you're putting the amateur boxers in with pro boxers so they can see the level they have to be at. There isn't that. What we don't have is a team specifically designed to get riders into Moto 2 and then get them into Moto, to GP from Moto, 2 to 3 and all that. And what VR46 has done is literally exactly that. And it's only a matter of time before the farm system is complete. It's the same thing you see with KTM. They've connected it completely. You know, and what you're seeing with the Mark VDS crew is retracting. They have no team in GP now, and the team they did have in GP sucked. And you see a big coup that happened. Valentino Rossi's the VR46 team just got one of their best riders in Morbidelli back onto Yamaha.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? That's like a real coup that they did because they're connecting it all together.
The Honda ride was just a tide over for Morbidelli for him to make it all the way back to Yamaha. Experience. Let's not get too far off topic here, and let's do second and first in the Moto2 Championship real fast. So I mean, we've already been talking about Sky VR46, so and you already brought up Pecco, but I mean this race from Pecco was one of the times where I actually didn't think that he had any chance of winning the race. It just really seemed like he didn't have it. He got obviously stuck in battling for third with Balda, and yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say this was. Like, you know, this doesn't make me think he's not going to win the title, but now with Oliveria there, it's a 2-horse race, and they're going to duke it out all the way to the end.
Right. And you have, for me, it's great because, again, not to go back to the idea, but you have one guy being trained by constantly duking it out against his peers, and the other guy, based on his qualifying performances versus racing and passing, seems to thrive on the duking it out challenge. I think it's great for Moto2. I think I said this before. I thought this was going to be a banner year for Moto2 because all the right riders were in all the right spots for a great year. I'm a lot less convinced now of Johan Mir winning a race than I was last podcast.
Really? One race? I mean, we're talking about Spanish racers, and he also was taken out by either Bo Benschneider or the other guy that also crashed. Thankfully, no one was hurt in that because there was a bike landing on Bo. That was pretty scary. Right. But I don't know. I didn't watch enough of the weekend and practice and stuff to be convinced that he's not going to win a race and not going to break that the Italian stranglehold or the non-Spanish stranglehold on the championship or on the wins.
The reason my worry exists is because of what you said about it turning into a 2-horse race with two guys who have who thrive in that situation. Whereas Mir is like, I'm already on Suzuki, long-term contract. Like, I'm not in the title hunt. There's a lot of downside to fighting tooth and nail, whereas the other two not only thrive in that situation, but have something to gain by it.
Well, they also
have the tangible championship.
Pecco and Oliveira is categorically shown that they're just better than Joan Mir.
Right.
Like, so yeah. So if he goes and battles with them, he might have that in the back of his mind the entire time. He shouldn't, because he's a motorcycle racer. You have to think that you're the best all the time. But if he does have it in there, maybe he doesn't push for that pass. Maybe he doesn't have a Luca Marini sort of performance like Luca did here at this race. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna go that far. I still have some confidence, and I'm gonna continue to make sure to watch all the races just in case it does happen.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
All right, I think we can round this one out. Is there well, actually, we should spend a little bit more time talking about Oliveira here. I mean, it seems like he's started to overcome that qualifying fault,
right?
And now he's able to qualify further up the grid now and is going to be more consistently battling for the wins. And like you said before, KTM consistently puts in effort. Like even though they know they have him signed for next year on a GP bike, and they still are putting in the effort into this. They know that the rules are going to change, but I guarantee they're going to bring out another chassis at some point. They're going to continue doing the development so that they can win this Moto2 title.
It means a lot because for them, winning that title is like winning that title gets them the farm system. If you view that as now not just a stepping stone, but a championship stepping stone, like it makes sure you consolidate talent early on. It gets the AAA team, so to speak. Also, it's kind of egg on the face a little bit that KTM as a major manufacturer with a major sponsor is still fighting tooth and nail with some random ass European chassis company.
I knew you were gonna say that.
I mean, it's true, and
it's experience. Like we say major factory and with a major sponsor, and expecting them to have the experience to be able to build a successful Moto2 race bike. But if you're talking experience in Moto2, you can't have more experience than Kalex. It's just not possible. They've been in this.
What you have is the ability to, again, more experience. At some point, it's you know, you're getting reduction in your investment.
Yeah,
like
diminishing returns.
Diminishing returns. You have so much experience, but what KTM has is just significantly larger resources to continue to improve that bike.
Yeah, which is why they've been able to do so well so fast.
Right, and they also kind of have the suitor effect in the sense that they have way less riders, and they have pretty much, I guess you could argue, lows, but pretty much only top level prospects to focus on. Whereas
argue lows.
Right. Where Kalex is spread across a large field, you wonder where their loyalties lie with the Mark VDS team, which brought them championships and all that stuff, versus obviously the association with VR46 and long-term development. You know, long-term, I mean, that VR46, you know, we said it, Valentino Rossi, VR46, you know, Chihuahua, you know, Tribe of the Chihuahua, we get more views if I say those three times. But like, where I think where they have potentially split loyalties and maybe spread too thin, and already smaller, KTM's not spread too thin. They only have a small handful of riders whom they want to eventually bring to GP. So it is to bring them to GP and win that championship or fight for wins and be competitive and fight for podiums. You need to make sure those riders are as fast as humanly possible.
I mean, I did talk about spreading KTM too thin last round with the fact that they're supposedly going to have 4 2019 factory KTMs on the grid next year, but they're not there yet. And yeah, I remember a few years ago, Mark VDS was effectively the factory Kalex team. And there are actually rules around like when riders can test new chassis parts and how, like, you know, they have to sell it to everyone. There's a lot of rules around that to prevent Kalex from putting all their effort into one team. And yeah, with the fact that Sky VR46 is leading the championship, you got to imagine that maybe they're getting a little bit more effort than Mark VDS from Kalex. But it could be spreading Kalex too thin. I don't know. There's not much that we could keep going down that route, but safe to say, I think that the rest of the Moto2 season is going to be fucking amazing.
Watch the race for reals.
Hell yeah. All right, I'm going to close this one out. Dennis, do you have any closing thoughts on Moto2? We haven't heard from you in a little while.
That's because I need to watch the race for real.
Oh, all right, everyone. We have a race coming up in what? You're going to hear this on Wednesday. So in a few short days, the Austrian round at they changed the name of the track again. What's it called?
It's not the Red Bull Ring anymore?
News to me, fuck.
No, they added some.
I'm too busy getting my questions ready and my official shit ready for my media passes for Moto America next week. Can't be talking about GP.
Yeah. Expect some content from us this weekend about Moto America while you're also watching MotoGP. Please tune in to BN Sports and check YouTube and Facebook Live as well for probably the Stock 1000 and the Twins races from Moto America. And then, of course, the Moto America races will probably make it, like the Superbike and the Supersport race and the Twins Cup races will probably be on YouTube shortly after the weekend or even during. So yeah, there's plenty of motorcycle racing to watch this weekend. Check out BrotoGP for more content on our YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe this video. Subscribe to this channel. Tell all your friends. Thanks for listening on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. And yeah, we kept this one not too long. And thanks for listening. Peace.
I'm Ron Burgundy.